What's up, Wired fam? What is going on with everybody this evening? On the 14th day of July, I'm taking my boots off. Waiting on StreamYard to catch up. I can't see anybody yet. I'm sure there's some guys on here waiting. Kicking the boots off, getting comfy. Getting comfy for you guys. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to another Wired Live. Let's see. Okay, I see 16 people on right now. Oh, there's the first comment come through. Everything's going pretty slow. Let's see. Andy Perry. Feels good to be back. How is everyone doing? Yeah, it kind of feels good to be back for me too because I missed last week. So if you were looking for the live last week, I apologize. I missed last week. But we're back tonight and we're back better than ever. So I'm ready for it. I'm ready to go. Let me get my Sprite opened up here. Tink. Let's see who else we have on tonight. Tom A. from Pennsylvania. Hello, Wired fam. What's up, Tom? Johnny Coots. Good evening. Good evening. Jimmy Pratt. Hello, Jimmy. All right, guys. Am I skipping? Can everybody see me good? Because I just skipped on my screen. I'll make sure everybody can see me. Jimmy Pratt, what's up, man? How's the house coming? Guys, if y'all need somebody to hook you up and lay some brick or some block, get with Pratt Masonry in Maryville, Tennessee. If you're in the Maryville area and you need some guys out there to do a good job that you just can trust, Pratt Masonry, that's who to call. Jimmy is over at the Wired House the last couple of days, laying some brick, getting ready to rock and roll. So, Jimmy, I appreciate everything y'all are doing over there, buddy. They're doing a great job. I drove by there. I hadn't stopped, but I drove by there on the way to Lowe's earlier, and it looked great. It looked really good. So I can't wait to see it finished. Let's see. Now everything's coming through. Hey, I'm behind again. Oh, what's new? Joseph Thaxton from Macon. Nathan Wood from Wabash. What's going on? Dave D. from Lake Hartwell, South Carolina, one of my favorite lakes, personal favorites, Lake Hartwell. Hartwell's got the crappie in it, guys. Ain't no doubt about that. Ronnie Harris, good evening. Andy Perry says, we forgive you for last week considering you're building a house with another member on the way. That is correct. So, yeah, it's getting a little crazy, guys. That's for sure. Trying to juggle 15 things at once is getting a little overwhelming, just a smidge. But it's going to be all right because it's only for a season. Everything is only for a season, guys. Nothing lasts forever. So everything is for a season. We're going to keep on treading water, and we're going to stay afloat. We're going to keep our head above water, and we're going to keep on going until the water recedes a little bit. But that's all right. We're going to be all right. It's going to happen. It's going to get done. It's going to look great. I have some videos for you guys for the house. Haven't put those out yet. For multiple reasons. I'll explain that later, but I've got all kinds of videos for you guys to see, so we'll be posting those, or I will be posting those in the coming weeks. But right now, we're still filming, but we're just not releasing anything just yet, okay? So looking forward to those house videos coming out. Got a good video coming out for you guys this week. Looking forward to it. I don't want to give it away. Spoiler alert, though, it is not crappie fishing, so it's a little something different. You guys know where my background came from and all that, and you know my 6-year-old wants to be a bass fisherman, so switching it up a little bit this week. Dum dum dum. So you guys will see that this week, but looking forward to it. Looking forward to the videos and the house and everything that is Wired right now is going really, really good. So I did miss last week. It wasn't because of the house, though. It's just I couldn't get back to the computer in time, guys. I tried my darndest to get back to the computer before 9, and it just didn't happen. So I always put my lives up at about 8 or 8:30 for you guys to click on and open up. But if you don't see one by about 8:30, 8:45-ish, then generally probably not going to happen. But yeah, let's see here. Hey, there's the discount codes. Don't forget about the discount codes, guys. Save yourself some money. CrappieCove.com. They've got all the great products that you see Wired use and more. So you can save 10% there with Wired. Fishing Specialties. Don't forget your live scope poles, your live sonar pole. It's not just live scope. It's for all live sonars, guys. Fishing Specialties poles are. And then, of course, stowaway mounts. 10% off there as well. Mike Morrison, good evening, everyone, from Clarks Hill Lake, South Carolina. What's going on, Mike? Clarks Hill is a lake that I've driven over it a million times, and I've always said I'm going to go fish Clarks Hill. I've heard that it's a very, very good crappie lake, and I'm going to go there eventually. I've got a bucket list about this big, so we're going to start working on that bucket list at some point, but hey, it's one step at a time. Got to get the house done first. If I go anywhere right now before that house gets finished, I'm going to need a divorce lawyer. So if there's any divorce lawyers in the Wired fam, hit me up. Because if I go somewhere right now without that house being done, it is going to get ugly. But no fishing trips for me at the moment. Until that house is done and that baby's here safe and sound, I'm grounded. Matt's grounded. So we're going to be East Tennessee crappie fishing for the next couple months anyway. 3 more months, I believe it is, until Little Wired is here, and then hopefully moving into the house. So we'll see. Heath McDaniel, good evening. Ronnie Harris, hello from Carrollton, Georgia. Coming off the lake, putting the boat up now, Jimmy said. You dog. You dog. Hey, you're not billing me for those hours, are you, Jimmy? Burn up, bro. Or you better bring me some fish. One or two. That's funny. Fish fry at the Wired House. Jimmy's frying fish. All right. Ron Hall from Mississippi. What's going on? Matt Scotch. Still waiting for the Lake Fork trip. The Lake Fork trip. Oh, yeah. Still waiting on me to go to Fork. So the plan this year was, guys, to actually fish the ACC Owners Tournament. If they had another one on Fork, I was planning on going down and fishing it. But they have that tournament, I think, somewhere right around November. And that's when Little Wired's do. So the chances of me going 14 hours that close to popping is not going to happen. I've already told everybody, don't even think about me being there. Don't even ask me if I'm coming because it just upset me. Don't plan for me to do anything because I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be at home. I'm not going to be 14 hours away from my wife and get a phone call that she's went into labor and I have to try to rush back 14 hours away. That ain't happening. That ain't happening. So it doesn't look like I'm going to make it to Fork this year. So, yeah, that stinks, doesn't it? But I'm going to get a new little baby to play with, so I'm good with it. Update on her, on Miss Wired and the baby. Baby's good. All positive things. Everybody said that everything looks like it's copacetic and A-okay. So we're doing good. She's doing good. And we're looking forward to having a healthy little baby. Yes. That guy right there. Hello from Lake Raven, South Carolina. What's going on? Hadn't heard of Lake Raven. Is there a lot of crappie in Raven? Hadn't heard of that lake. What area is that? Andy Perry, Matt, are all of your guided trips only 4 hours? No. So I run 8-hour trips and 4-hour trips. It just depends on what you want. So wiredforcrappie.com, guys, if you haven't visited wiredforcrappie.com, check it out. That's my website. It's got all the merch, the Wired merch, Wired for Crappie, shirts, hats, hoodies, all that good stuff. Cups and all kinds of good stuff on the merch on the website there. But also my guide service and my guide trips can be booked right there on the website. So you can go there and take a look at all the pricing for the guide trips and the duration of the guide trips. I do 1 angler, 2 angler trips. They're at different costs. They're at different price points, and you can do 8 hours or 4 hours. So very good question, Andy. I appreciate the question. I'm going to punt that to wiredforcrappie.com. And you can check it out there and look at all the rates and stuff. Okay, buddy. And my calendar's on there as well. So if you want to find a date that works for you on my calendar, you're more than welcome to book that online, and that'll send me a notification and set us up. Dog Talk, hello from Snake River, Idaho. What's going on, buddy? Also, let's talk about another aspect of the guide trip. So 10,000 subscribers, guys. When we get to 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away to one lucky subscriber a 2-day trip in East Tennessee with me. Okay. We're going to fish 2 different lakes. We're going to go to one lake Saturday, one lake Sunday, and I'm paying for it. Okay. I'm paying for everything. I'll pay for your motel. I'll pay for your fishing license, and I'll pay for all the gas and everything, rods, reels, tackle, all that in the boat. I'll cover all that. I'll cover food while we're in the boat, drinks while we're in the boat. The only thing you will have to cover, or the subscriber will have to cover, is their gas to get to East Tennessee, and then their food while they're not in the boat with me. So everything else that weekend I will cover, fishing license and motel, so on and so forth. Okay. So we're going to give that away to one lucky subscriber when we hit 10,000. Please, guys, share a video. I need people out there sharing videos, telling people to check out the channel, telling people about the giveaway, telling them to subscribe. I need you guys' help. Okay. If we're going to get to 10,000 by the end of this year, which is my goal, okay, I need you guys to help. I need you guys pushing videos, sharing those videos, spreading the word about Wired for Crappie. Okay. I appreciate each and every subscriber. I appreciate you guys for being here on Wednesdays and watching the videos, but let's push it. Let's push and try to grow the channel quickly. That way I can give away this trip quicker. Okay. So as soon as we get to 10,000 subscribers, we'll draw by random one lucky subscriber, and you could be it. It could be you. So if you're subscribing to the channel, you're entered into the giveaway. Okay. Heath McDaniel said 14 hours not pulling a boat. Yeah, that's true. 14 hours is not pulling a boat to fork. So for me, so probably more like 16 to 18 pulling a boat. So yeah, that's probably the truth. So let's talk a little bit about summer crappie fishing. It's hot, guys. It's getting hotter. There's a lot of people out there that are fishing in the South that are on the channel. It's just, I see some South Carolinas, Mississippi's, Louisiana's, Texas. There's an Idaho, which your guys' water is probably a little cooler than ours being from Idaho, but I'm sure you guys are getting hot up there too. Let's talk about hot water. I had a conversation with a gentleman this week about the summer bite and how the fish just kind of turn off to a lot of different baits. Okay. They'll turn off to plastics. They'll turn off to some, hair jig is a real good option in the summer. It just really downsizes your bait a lot. You can take a hair jig and cut the hair off right behind the hook, and it really streamlines it. It just, you got enough hair there to hide the hook, but it streamlines your bait, downsizes it. Hair jigs, very low profile, small profile type baits. But for the most part, July, August, guys, you can't beat a minnow. You can't beat a slip float in a minnow. And I had a conversation with a gentleman earlier this week, told him that. I think it may have been last week, actually. But nonetheless, he went fishing, took some minnows, and slayed them. So, and slayed them several different trips. But don't be afraid to slip float a minnow in the summer, guys. I'm telling you, it's hot. Those fish get lethargic with the heat and the hot water. They'll feed. Those fish will feed. There's no doubt about it. I mean, fish will feed. They're still active. Those fish are still feeding. They're still hungry. They just are a little bit harder to fool. Okay, they're not as reactive in the summer, in the heat of the summer. Okay. So, don't be afraid to slip float minnows. I love slip floating minnows. It is absolutely, it's like taking me back to when I was a kid. Okay. Watching that float go down is just second to none for me. Like I said, I've got plenty of plastics. I can fish plastics all day long, twice on Sunday, and the rest of the year not run out. But I'm telling you, when it gets hot, there's something about slip floating a minnow. It just works. I like to catch fish, guys. I'm not afraid to catch them however they want it. If they want a jig, I'll use a jig. If they want a minnow, I'm going to put a minnow on. I am not too good to use a minnow, let me tell you. Now, I'm a jig fisherman. I'll tell everybody that real quick, but I ain't afraid to use a minnow. Okay? So if you're having a hard time, if the bite is finicky, if you're seeing fish, let's say you pull up to a brush pile, you see 20 fish on it, and you get 2 to bite, and the rest of them just sit down there and look at your jig go by. It's always helpful to have that minnow in the boat. Put a minnow down there and see how they react. I guarantee you'll get more bites. It's just the heat of the summer. It just does that to them, okay? That'll probably last through about October, okay, for us here in East Tennessee. So through about October, middle of October, it'll start to turn. Middle of October, you get some cooler nights, and it'll start dropping. Temperatures will drop, surface temps will drop, and you'll start. That's when you start seeing that fall bite start showing up. Sorry, I got the hiccups. You start seeing that fall bite show up, and docks get really good. Okay, middle of October through November, the dock bite is incredible. Fish start to move up, the water temperatures start cooling off a little bit, and they just start pushing up under those docks to feed. And, I've told you guys before, docks are their own ecosystem. You got structure, you got, your algae and your microplanktons, which your bait fish are attracted to, and then your big fish are attracted to your bait fish. Plus you got cover, shade, and all that good stuff. Little cooler water in the summer. I mean, don't be afraid to hit docks in midsummer, guys. Docks in the middle of summer are absolute fish attractors. They've got shade. They've got water that's a couple degrees cooler. They just attract fish. There's bait there. It's just a nice place for those fish to go. And don't be afraid to fish shallow docks in the summer. I mean, there's a lot of areas in East Tennessee where we can fish shallow docks and just catch limits of fish all summer long. So don't be afraid to fish shallow docks. If you know that there's shallow docks that are close to a creek channel or close to a river channel or a creek bend or something like that, don't be afraid to fish those docks, okay? Heidi Clark, what's going on, Heidi? Glad you're with us this evening. Tim Thorne, he says, hey, Matt. Hello, Tim. Here we go. Jimmy says, that was me. I've caught 85 in 3 short trips. That's getting it right there, guys. That's slaying some crappie. Mike, yep, it's easier to feed them with minnows than to try to fool them with plastics. Ain't no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. And guys, look, there's sometimes you see things out there in social media that, look, some guys just don't believe in minnows. They don't like fishing minnows. That's their own business. But I believe in catching fish. You guys know that. I believe in catching fish. I believe in helping anglers catch more fish. And if a minnow put more fish in your boat, I'm going to tell you a minnow put more fish in your boat. Now, not all the times will a minnow put more fish in your boat. But in the heat of summer, a minnow put more fish in your boat. Okay? So there you go. Tim, why would crappies be under shallow docks if the water is warm like it is now, Lake of the Ozarks? So, Tim, it varies lake to lake, okay? But I'm going to use a lake, say Chickamauga, for instance. Chickamauga has a lot of shallow water in it. It's got a lot of shallow bays and things like that. Outside of the river channel, okay? So when you get outside the river channel, it's a fairly shallow lake. And a lot of times those fish, they move up in those shallow areas to feed, like in the evenings and things like that. And then when the sun comes up, they run to those docks for shade because the water stays a little cooler. Okay. I know it sounds crazy. I know that it doesn't make sense to what people have always heard about crappie, but I'm telling you right now, my friend, I've done it for years. And it's not just a one-off. I've actually taken guide trips in June and July and August and fished no deeper than 6 foot all day and caught over 100 fish in a guide trip. So, the fish will, on certain bodies of water, go shallow, okay, and stay shallow. And the reason they get under those docks is because it's shaded and it's a little bit cooler than the rest of the surrounding water in the lake. So it just keeps the water cooler because of the shade. And the bait fish are there. Heidi, Laura's good. Laura's well. Doing very good. Little Wired is doing good. Everybody's on track and doing well right now. So we're blessed. Thank everyone for the prayers and keep us in your prayers, obviously, please. But right now, everybody's doing really well. Everybody's doing good. So we're blessed in that aspect, and we're going to continue to be that, I think. So I hope and pray. So we'll see how it goes. But thank you for asking, Heidi. Heidi asks every week, every time we're on the live. So thank you, Heidi. I appreciate it. And everybody is doing well. Everybody's good. Dave says, can it be hard to get a minnow to the fish under docks since you can't shoot them? So when I shoot docks in the summer, I don't use minnows, Dave. When I slip float, well, I take that back. A lot of docks, you can pitch a minnow, like in between, pitch a slip float and a minnow in between a pontoon and a dock, or, if you're fishing a marina or something like that, you can kind of pitch it in there in the corner of the marinas and things like that. But for the most part, when I'm fishing docks in the summer, I'm using a jig. Fish under docks will be a little bit more active at times, especially shallow water fish. I've found that shallow water fish are very active compared to fish out in deeper water. One way that I have been successful in getting a float and a minnow under a dock, if you can't pitch it in underneath, or obviously you can't shoot it because the minnow would come off your hook, right? But I have been successful if there's current or wind, getting on the upwind side of a dock or up current side of a dock, and let that minnow float underneath it. Okay. So let that minnow float, pitch out beside the dock, leave your bail open, and let that minnow float under the dock. If you don't have cross members, you can do it that way too. So that's one way you can get a minnow under there to fish. Just float it under there. And it's funny because I've actually threatened to get one of those little power boats and drive one underneath the dock. Put it on there and drive it underneath there and see if I can catch fish. I've threatened to do that before. Matthew, yes, I am. Actually, that should be not this week, but next week. It should post next week. So I did the slip float video, and it should post next week. How do you go? What I got? When you're shooting docks, do you use plastics or a hair jig? Both. Joseph, I've used plastics and hair jigs. I'll say this, plastics actually shoot better because they skip off the water better. A hair jig, you're not going to get it to skip very well. So you really, if you have a dock that's up off the water a little bit, you can use a hair jig a lot easier than you can if you're only got, 6 inches of clearance. Okay. Steven, what's going on? From Holly Springs, North Carolina. Heidi says her prayers will continue. Thank you, Heidi. I appreciate it. So yes, let's go back to the slip float video. I tried for like 2 weeks to get to the bait shop and get some minnows because I didn't have any minnows. So I tried to get there on a Friday evening so I could go Saturday morning early and go make one, and it just didn't happen. I didn't get there to get minnows. So, and the bait shop the bait shop here doesn't open until 7:30, I think it is 7 or 7:30. So anyway, I was already on the water and those couple weeks, but it's coming. It's coming next week. So you should see it next week, Matthew, and it's a good one. So you won't want to miss it. I'm telling you that that new float that I'm using, every time I use it, it impresses me more and more. I really want to show it to you guys, but I don't want to spoil it. So it impresses me the more and more I use it. So Dave says, ever tied a jig under a slip bobber? Yes, I have. I don't fish it a lot. I float and fly a lot. That's not necessarily under a slip float. Floating and flying is big in Tennessee. It's been, kind of a staple in the crappie world in East Tennessee for a long time. I think it all started up on Douglas Lake. The people float and fly all the time, float and fly the flats in the winter. And still to this day, everybody goes up there and float and flies. You'll have 100 boats sitting in one creek floating and flying, just casting and popping and ripping. And, it's crazy up there how many people float and fly in the winter. But I do float and fly. I love to float and fly. It is a really cool way to fish. Watching that float and understanding what a strike is on a float and fly setup is really neat. Need to do a video on that, but it's so hard because you're making long casts with a float and fly, and a lot of times you don't see the bite. I mean, if you're working a float and fly, I would see the bite because I would see the bobber change directions, but seeing it on video would be so difficult because it's not always, the bobber rod doesn't always go under. A lot of times it comes up, or when you're popping it, when you go to pop it, it'll go back instead of forward. You'll go to pop it and it'll come forward and then go right back. And it's like, that's a bite. Boom. Because you pop it and that fish grabs it and it pulls your float back. Just the little subtleties of a float and fly setup is really cool. And I love doing it with my fishing partner too. I love floating and flying with my fishing partner because I mess with him all the time. There was a tournament that we fished where I did not have my glasses. I knew we were going to be floating and flying, but I didn't take my glasses. So I'm floating and flying, and he's like, "Are you going to set the hook?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Your float, it went backwards." And I'm like, "No, it didn't." And he's like, "It set the hook." And I'm like, "Okay, boom." Then there's a fish on it. And I'm like, "Oops." I couldn't see. So ever since then, he tells everybody he has to tell me when to set the hook, which he did that day. He had to tell me like 4 or 5 times. He's like, "Hey, your float just went halfway underwater." And I'm like, "No, it didn't." And he's like, "Yeah, it did, jerk." So he's like, "I got to tell Matt when to jerk." And he's made fun of me ever since and told everybody and their mother's brother that I can't float and fly because he had to tell me when to jerk. But it's just a really fun way, and I love doing it. And now I mess with him because, when we're out fun fishing or whatever, I'll get a bite, my float will go completely under the lake, and I'll just sit there and just keep popping. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Jerk." So that's pretty funny. Jimmy Pratt. Jamie Nelson. Hello all from West Kentucky. Late tonight. What's going on, Jamie? Better late than never, my friend. Let's see. Jimmy Pratt. I fished with a double jig system, stump bug on 2 and minnow on bottom, no float. double jig system, stump bug on 2 and minnow on top. Stump bug on top and a minnow on the bottom, no float. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that are fishing that double jig setup now, especially with live scope, putting 2 baits down there instead of 1. And there's a lot of guys that'll put a bare hook on the bottom and tip it with a minnow. So, it's a great way to get fish to react because they see that you've got color and you've got the natural presentation of the minnow. Minnows down there swimming around, and you've got, a black and chartreuse or a white and chartreuse or whatever you have on top. It's just kind of the best of both worlds right now, and that's a great way to catch fish. Is to have that best of both worlds right there on one line. So, and with live scope now, you can see your brush pile, you can see your jig, you can keep those baits out of the brush. A lot of the reason that I didn't use, or I've never used a double jig setup, is because that's 2 hooks down there that I've got to try to keep unhung, right? So I've always been a brush fisherman. Before live scope, I was a brush fisherman. I fished brush 80% of the time, just like I do now. Live scope did not change the way I fish, guys. It hasn't. I mean, I fished the same way before live scope as I did after live scope. Now it's made me more efficient, and I can fish more piles in a day because I know where the fish are setting and I know how many there is. But I fished the same way before as I do now, and I never used 2 jigs just for the simple purpose of getting hung up more. But now, maybe that's a better way to go. Mark, what's going on from Pine Mills, Texas? What's going on, Mark? Dog talk. Minnow on top is better. Why would you say that? Let's talk about that. Why would you say minnow on top is better? Oh, here we go. He says minnow on bottom can swim up and tangle. That's true. He could. I haven't had any issues. I fished that rig some, and I've actually spider rigged with that setup. I hadn't really had much trouble with the jig swimming up and getting tangled, but you're right, he could. If that minnow's down there and he's got plenty of line, he could swim up and get tangled. Yeah. The only bad thing about that dog talk is if you're fishing brush and they want the minnow, then you've got to put the jig in the brush to get the minnow to the brush. So I guess it would just depend on which one they were after more. I mean, if you caught more fish on the jig than you did the minnow, then it would make sense to put the jig on bottom. But if you were catching more on the minnow, then it would make more sense to me to put the minnow on the bottom so that I didn't have to get in the brush and get hung. I guess it just depends on what you're fishing and how you're fishing it. So if you guys watched the last video I put out, I went and fished a new area. I've done, like I said in the video, I've done seminars on that area and broke that lake down 100 times for people, and just kind of told them where I would look, and went and finally fished that area after years of, breaking it down for people, and caught fish, got on fish pretty quick. Looked in some areas that I had identified on avionics and that I had showed people where I would drop brush, and there was brush there in those areas. So found quite a bit of brush. Caught some good fish, caught a lot of small fish, but caught fish all day long. Even up till 1 o'clock I was catching fish. So it was a good day. It's productive. I'm going to go back down there probably this weekend. I'm going to go back to that same area and do some more exploring. So you guys know me. I like to explore. I like to break down water. I like to look for new areas, new spots. That's what makes you a better fisherman, guys. If you go to the same ramp every weekend, you put in the same ramp and you fish the same areas over and over in the same brush piles over and over, you're going to get basically the same results over and over. So, if that's your passion and that's your poison, then that's great. But I like to go to new areas and find new stuff. And it's just something so cool about finding a brush pile that you've never seen before, seeing fish on it, stopping, catching those fish off that brush pile. There's a sense of accomplishment that comes with that. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to go back to that area probably this weekend and probably do some more exploring, some more looking around. And see if we can't find some more stuff, and probably look at some docks. I didn't look at a whole lot of docks. I looked at a marina that was in that area and found some fish on the marina. Not a whole lot, but found some. So I'm going to go look at some docks and try to get on some actual docks, just individual docks, and see if we can't find fish that way, and do a little bit of a dock video, you know, summer dock fishing. Probably do that. Let's just see what we can find, right? So Tom A., thank you, buddy, for the super chat. I appreciate it very much. He says, let's hit the like button, everyone. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Guys, if you don't know what a super chat is, that's a way for you guys to give back to the channel. It's a blessing to me and to the channel for you guys to give those super chats. Helps keep me on the water, making great content for you guys. It costs money to get out there and make these videos and get out there and do what we do, what YouTubers do, for you guys to watch. And I appreciate it very much, Tom. That'll help keep me on the water making good content. So thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate it. Eddie Gregg, what braid do you use? So I use the Bonehead Tackle B-Power braid. That is a 12-pound braid. It is a 4-pound test diameter, and I use it in high-vis orange. So that's what I use. I use it in high-vis orange. And again, that's the Bonehead B-Power braid, 12-pound test. Tom Wade, thank you, Tom, for the super chat. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a blessing to me and to the Wired fam. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Again, that'll help me stay on the water making good content. So I appreciate it, Tom. Eddie Gregg, I sent you a message a few days back wanting to know what battery you use to run your live scope on, and a model number for it. And do you recommend doubling the amp hour size for the battery? Eddie, first and foremost, I'm sorry I haven't got back to your email. I am extremely behind on emails right now, guys. So if you guys have sent me an email, I will get to it, but I am behind, and I'm sorry for that. I am behind on my emails, and I need to get caught up, but I will. So the battery that I use, it's an Amped Outdoors battery. It's a 30 amp hour battery, okay? Would I recommend doubling the amp hour size? No. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to. If you want to double the amp hour size, you can. But Eddie, I mean, I can run my live scope, the unit and the black box for 3 days or 3 trips without having to charge. So I think the 30 amp hour is more than enough. I don't think it's necessary to double that size of the amp hour unless you just wanted to. If you want to, then sure, but I run the 30 amp hour. Mark says, dock fishing is hot here on my home lake, killing them on crappie magnet, panfish magnet. Yeah, again, docks in the summer, guys, they just hold fish, and they hold fish because there's bait there, there's structure there, there's shade there. You know, they've got everything they need to survive during summer, during hot months under a dock. So, Matt, you reminded me again of the depths. You use 455 kilohertz versus 800 kilohertz on side imaging. Sure. So anything 10 foot or less, I'm running 800. And anything deeper than 10 foot, I'm running 455. So if I'm looking under shallow docks and I'm in less than 10 foot of water, and I know I'm looking in less than 10 foot of water, I'll flip over to 800. But other than that, I'm on 455. So again, guys, if you don't really understand that question, let me put that question back up. If you don't really understand that question a whole lot, what's the difference in 455 and 800? 455, the lower the kilohertz, the deeper it's going to penetrate in your water column. Okay. So 455 is going to penetrate deeper into your water column than 800 will. So guys that are running 800 on side imaging, when they get out past 40 or 50 foot to the side, it starts getting darker as they go out. That's because they're losing the power of that 800 kilohertz the further out it gets from the boat. You're losing clarity. You're losing power. Okay. You would think it would be the opposite. You would think it would be, 800 is more. It's not. 800 gives you a cleaner image at short distance, but it's not going to penetrate the water as deeply. Okay. So that's why when I'm in 10 foot or less, I run 800. If I get deeper than 10 foot, I always run 455, always, because you're going to get a better picture at distance with 455. Okay. What the name of battery? Eddie, it is an Amped Outdoors. Here, let me put it in here. Let me put their website in here. Amped Outdoors. Okay, there is their website, ampedoutdoors.com, and it is just that's what they call it, a 30 amp hour. That's it. It is a 30 AH, 30 amp hour. So when you go down through there, you click on battery and go down to 30 amp hour. It's right there. I mean, there's not like 15 different 30 amp hours, Eddie. It's just one. That's it. Amped Outdoors doesn't have a 15 or 5 or 3 different 30 amp hour batteries. That's just one. Okay. Curtis Hobbs, what's going on, Curtis? It has been a few weeks. He says, hey, Matt, been a few weeks. Been watching Netflix with wife. Planning on going fishing one morning just to run motor. Might try to catch a few. Always like to watch and learn. Oh, Curtis, I'm glad you're here, buddy. I hope you're doing well. Curtis, guys, if you don't know who Mr. Curtis Hobbs is, that is Mr. Lightwire Hooks himself. And I have got to have a conversation with you, Curtis, because, well, I'll call you. All good things. But Curtis, me and you need to get together and have a conversation because I need some hooks. I'm running low on all my pony heads, and I need a couple other things from you as well. So I'm going to holler at you, Curtis. Probably, if I don't holler at you the next day or two, I'll probably holler at you first of the week, and we'll have a conversation about hooks. But if you guys hadn't looked at lightwirehooks.com, check out Curtis at lightwirehooks.com. His motto is fish the finest. And they really are. He can work a hook any way you want it. If you want a gold number 1, he can put a gold number 1 on it. If you want a number 2 gold sickle, he'll put that on there. A bronze sickle, a nickel sickle. I mean, whatever you want, he'll put it on there. So Mr. Curtis has got a lot of stuff that he's already made up, but he also does stuff by request too. So Mr. Curtis is really good with it, and he's a great guy to work with. So guys, check him out. Eddie said, I have seen a YouTube clip that recommended doubling the size for battery. That's the reason I asked. No, I mean, it's not necessary, Eddie. I mean, unless you just want to spend the money. I mean, look, I've been running my 30 amp hours since I bought my live scope, which I don't know how long's live scope been out. I've been running it for a long time. As a matter of fact, Amped Outdoors used to be Energized Outdoors, and my battery still says Energized on it. So, and it's been that long ago since I got mine, and I've been running it since then. And it is just keeps on kicking and keeps on kicking. Now, knock on wood, it could blow up tomorrow, but right now it's still going. So, if it did blow up tomorrow, I'd buy another 30 amp hour. I wouldn't double it. To me, there's no need in it. Steven says the battery Mac uses is lithium. It can be discharged almost all the way down with a wet cell lead acid or AGM. It should only be discharged halfway, hence the doubling for the amp hours. Yes, I do run a lithium battery. All amped outdoor batteries are lithiums. I do not recommend running a live scope system on a wet cell battery for any reason, guys. If you go listen, if you go to I'm going to throw some people under the bus right here. Okay. If you go to a marine dealer and they say, yeah, we'll hook your live scope up for $587, and they say, oh, we'll run it. No, don't worry about it. We'll run the power to your starting battery. You'll be fine. When you break down, don't call me. Okay. Don't do it. You better buy a jump box if you run a live scope to your starting battery. I'm telling you right now. And if you run it to a trolling motor battery, you better go ahead and buy new trolling motor batteries, because if you're running a 24-volt system, it's going to kill one of your batteries, and your system is going to need 2 new batteries. So I'm telling you right now, if you run live scope to a wet cell starting battery, you might get away with it for a little bit if that battery's in good shape. But I promise you guys, I promise you, it will kill that battery over time, and it won't take long. Okay? I'm telling you. So word to the wise, please, 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 if you spend the money on live sonar, please spend the money on a good lithium battery. Please. I've seen way too many guys broke down with battery issues because their live scope killed their battery. I've had guys in tournaments that have called and said, we need a tow, or our live scope killed our battery. It will happen. It will happen eventually. So please, please invest in a good lithium battery. All right. And run your live scope off of a battery on its own, a lithium. All right. Steven says, Curtis hooked me up a little while back. Hi, Curtis. That's good. Curtis is great. I'm telling you right now. I don't know what he hooked you up with, but I know he sent you some extra stuff. That's how Curtis is. You can't ever call Curtis. You can't ever call Curtis and say, I want 100 jigs and get 100 jigs. It don't happen. You call Curtis and you say, I want 100 pony heads, and he says, great. And you end up with 130, and you get 100 pony heads and then 30 of whatever Curtis likes. So you get extras, man. I love it. I love it when Curtis sends you stuff. Now, I don't know if it's 30 every time or whatever. I don't count. But, you always get a little package of extras, and that's what makes Curtis so great. He does it because he loves it. And that's the kind of people I like working with is people that do it because they love it, right? And Curtis does. Curtis is a crappie fisherman. He loves to do it. Just like he said, he's going fishing later, or this week. But I've been getting hooks from Curtis. I've been getting hooks from you for better part of a decade now, I reckon, before Wired was even Wired. Nathan, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate it very much. It's a blessing again. I don't take the super chats lightly, guys. Thank you for that. He says, hey, Matt, what Pflueger size reel do you use for your 8-foot ACC rod for cranks? Thanks. So all of my ACC rods have the same reel on them, and this one's broke. I wore this one out and broke it, so don't take that into account. But that is the Pflueger Tryon, and that is the size 25. Okay. All of my rods have the same reel on them. That way I can pick up any rod and it's the same feel. Okay. A little while back, Blake at Crappie Cove tried to convince me that there was a better reel than the Pflueger Tryon. He gave me one. He's like, just put it on a reel. Try it, see if you like it. You may switch. Look, I'm still using the Pflueger Tryon because I didn't like it. So, and I'd tell him that if he was on here. I hadn't seen him yet, but if he was on here, I'd tell him I didn't like his reel. It just wasn't me. So anyway, guys, this is what I use. The Pflueger Tryon size 25 is what I use. But if you get it and it's not for you, don't use it. It's a great reel. It's very smooth. They hold up well. This reel did break, okay? But I'm hard on reels. If you guys watch my videos, I'm hard on reels. And I put them through the ringer. Like I'm literally flipping a bail on a reel, probably in an 8-hour day of fishing. I bet I flipped that bail probably, I don't know, probably 200 to 300 times in an 8-hour day, if I had to guess and be realistic about it. So, and I'm fishing every week, sometimes twice a week. So for those reels to hold up like they do, I mean, I've got some that are 2 or 3 years old and they're still going. And, I bring them in. I do oil them from time to time, but that's about it. I don't really clean them. I should, but I don't really clean them much. They're at a price point that makes it doable to buy new reels a couple times, a couple reels every year. They don't break the bank, and you can replace a couple each year. And over the course of 3 years, you've replaced them all. So that's what I use, the Pflueger Try-On, size 25. Ricky James Underwood, which lake are you fishing? Are you yelling fishing at me? I learned a long time ago that anything in all caps is yelling. I sent an email one time and I capitalized everything. I remember my boss called me in there. He's like, you can't capitalize everything. I was like, why? I just had caps lock on, typed an email. I didn't mean anything by it. And he's like, people think you're yelling at them. I was like, okay, whatever. And that stuck with me. Anyway, let's see. Which lake are you fishing? Depth, method, results. So right now I've been fishing a couple different lakes. I fished Tellico. I fished I fished Tellico. I fished Watts Bar. I fished Loudon, and fished them all about the same. Docks and brush in 20 to 30 feet of water, okay, on the side of river channels. So looking on the edge of river channels, looking on the edge of creek channels when the depth permits, and that 20 to 30 foot of water is what I'm looking for. Fishing method, I'm shooting docks or I'm pitching brush. If I'm fishing brush, I'm swimming jigs through brush or swimming a jig under a dock. And results are good. I mean, you can catch this time of year, you're not going to pull up on something and catch 100. They're going to be scattered out a little bit, but you can pull up and catch 4 or 5 here, 6 or 8 there, 3 or 4 there, 10 over here. You just have to move around a lot. Kenneth Pippins, thank you, Kenneth, for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, it's a blessing to me and to the channel, and I appreciate you for it, Kenneth. Thank you very much. Dave D says, I can't seem to find the size 25 Pflueger anywhere. I'm going to tell you guys where I get mine. I buy mine just like you guys do. Where is my phone? First and foremost, let's see if they have them at Crappie Cove. Have you checked Crappie Cove, Dave? CrappieCove.com. You get the discount at Crappie Cove. So let's check Crappie Cove real quick. I'll check it with you. CrappieCove.com. Fishing supplies right now, guys, are tough. I mean, they're tough to find. So Crappie Cove has the 20. They do not have the 25. It doesn't look like. Hang on, I'm looking. I ain't done yet. Boy, they got a lot of reels at Crappie Cove, guys. I mean, a lot. You got a bunch of different reels. I got the President, and what size is this? That's a 22. All right, so I don't see them at Crappie Cove, although they have every other reel. Let's see here. Anybody on here from Minnesota? We got any Minnesotas in the house? Anybody from Minnesota? Yes, no, maybe so. Let me know if you're from Minnesota, guys. All right. Best price on Pflueger try-on size 25s. I'm going to give it to you right now. Okay. Go to Google and type in Glenn's Army Navy Store. Okay. Glenn's Army Navy Store. They have the Pflueger try-on for $39.95, size 25. Pflueger try-on, 25 spinning reel, $39.95, guys, right there. Glenn's Army Navy Store. That's where I buy mine. They have all my info on file. Okay. I literally call up there and I'm like, hey, this is Matt. I need some more try-ons. And they're like, how many you want this time? I'm like, 6. Okay. Same card. Yeah. Okay. And it's like, bye. And they send them to me. So they are located in Minnesota. Let me put their website down here for you guys. It's www.glennsoutdoors.com. Okay. There's their website. It's Glenn's Army Navy. So if you go to Google and type that in, you'll get them. glennsoutdoors.com. And then in the search bar, just put Tryon, Trion, or Pflueger. I spell Tryon a lot better than I do Pflueger, but it'll pull it up. So there you go, Dave. Go get you some. Eddie Gregg, do you use a leader on that braided line? Yes, I do. The leader I use is I'm a big fan of Vicious. You guys know I like my Vicious. Okay, that's my 4-pound Vicious and high vis. That's what I shoot docks with. That is my go-to for docks. But what I use for my leader is I use 100% fluorocarbon. As you can see, that says 100% fluorocarbon line. And I've since went to an 8-pound. I was using a 6-pound, but I like the 8 better. It is fluorocarbon, so it's 100% clear, especially in the water. It disappears underwater, period. So I went to an 8-pound, and I'll tell you why, because I'm stressing that leader a lot with tying it to a braided line. There's zero stretch in braid. There's a little bit of stretch in fluorocarbon, not as much as mono, but there is a little give in fluorocarbon. So I wanted something a little bit beefier so that when I set the hook and brush, I'm not putting as much or I'm not stressing that line as much on an 8-pound as I am a 6. Okay. So I did go to an 8-pound, but it's clear underwater. So that's what I use, the fluoro, Vicious 100% fluoro. And I generally tie about a 2, really depends on what I'm doing that day, but I generally tie somewhere between a 2 and a 4-foot leader. Kenneth Pippins, under what conditions did you say you would use the 1/5 volt or 1/2, I think is what that was supposed to be, 1/2 volt maintainer charger, battery charger to maintain your batteries and not the onboard battery charger? Kenneth, I never use my onboard battery charger. The only time I take it back, go back. The only time I use my onboard charger is when I'm on the road in a tournament. Okay. If I'm on the road fishing a tournament and I need to charge quick overnight because I'm fishing a 2-day event, then I use my 6-amp onboard charger. If I'm at home, the 1.5 amp maintainer is all I use. Okay. I charge my batteries with those all year. And I literally leave my batteries, like right now as we speak, my boat batteries, all 3 of them are on maintainer trickle chargers. They're 1.5 amp. Okay. And they're on them right now. And they'll stay on them until next time I go fishing. I come back from fishing, they get plugged up, they stay on, period. It maintains your batteries. It just extends the life of your battery that much more. And the number one reason that batteries fail is because of improper charging. That's the number one reason batteries fail, period. So those maintainers will actually charge the battery and then maintain the battery. So by maintaining, it'll actually cycle that battery. So it'll pull it off, put a little on, pull it off, pull it on, it cycles that battery. That way it maintains it. That's how it maintains. Okay. And there's nothing better you can do for the life of your battery than maintaining it. Again, the number one fail of a battery is from improper maintaining, and letting a battery set, and especially letting it set for long periods of time, is not good. Just letting a battery just sit there stagnant is not good for that battery. So I always keep mine on. Heidi, there's Heidi. She said, "Did you try Crappie Cove?" Yep, Crappie Cove only has 20s. They do not have the 25s. Mike, good question, buddy. Good question. So, any idea when ACC dock shooters will be available? I've looked for a couple months. So yes, there was. Andy released a statement today. I don't know if you guys saw it on my Facebook page. If you're not friends with me on Facebook, you might not have seen it. So I will read it for you guys while we're here. But ACC released a statement today. It says, all right, it says, "We wanted to provide you an update on what's happening with ACC Crappie Sticks business and why we have been out of stock on rods the last several months. As you probably are aware, there are extreme supply chain issues occurring throughout the United States in the last year with multiple products. Unfortunately, we are dealing with these exact issues. We have rods sitting in the U.S. rail yards for over a month waiting to be transported to our fulfillment centers. The reason being the rail yards are experiencing extreme consumer goods volume over what they typically handle. We've also been undergoing some major operational changes to help us with our fulfillment process to keep up with orders, and therefore have experienced delays. They're moving warehouses, and that is causing some issues as well. Okay. ACC has outgrown their current building and they're moving into a bigger building. So that's a great thing. Okay. Growing pains. These are growing pains, and that's a great thing. ACC is going to come back even stronger after they get moved. Right. At this time, we are hoping to be back up and running by August 1st. So they're hoping that the supply issues will right themselves. They'll get moved into the building. They'll get everything set back up. And then August 1st, they'll be out the door, Mike, rolling with rods going out. So, great info from them. That's what's happening with ACC. I will tell you guys a little bit of little something for the 40 people that are still with me. I have a couple of, I almost gave it away. I have a couple of prototypes here that I've been using, and you guys will hear a lot more about that from a lot of different people coming up soon. I'll be one of those people that really pushes what's going on back here with these. Okay. These right here are a couple extras that I have, but I have some rigged up in the boat. So I've been using those and really, 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 really like what's going on over there in that corner. So you guys are going to be, I think, excited about it. It's really, really good stuff. A lot of good things coming from them shortly. So hang with ACC, baby, because they're coming on strong. They're going to have a really, really, really strong fourth quarter this year. I can tell you that, because they have got some really good stuff coming, and it's going to be exciting. I'm glad to be a part of it, and I'm glad to be a part of their organization and what they've got going on. So I can't wait for you guys to see them, and I can't wait to talk about them. So I'm chomping at the bit. Like, I want to start right now, but right now they're just in the prototype stage. They're in testing, and we've kind of been asked not to talk a whole lot about it, but all good things coming. they are looking at doing new stuff. They want everybody to know they're looking at doing new stuff, and it's coming. So that's going to be really, really cool. All right, guys. So we've been on a little over an hour. I'm at the bottom of the. Wait, I just had another one come in. Oh, this is a good one. Kenneth Pippins, how do you keep minnows alive during the heat of summer? Frozen water bottles. So you have to be careful with frozen water bottles, Kenneth, because if you get the water in your bait well too cold, then when you take those minnows and put them in the lake water, it's going to shock them and they're going to die. So there's good and bad to those water bottles, buddy. And I'll tell you this, okay? Where I get my minnows from, they have a cooled water tank. So their water tank in the bait shop is cooled. So I get cool water. The best thing I can tell you is invest in a good minnow bucket, okay? I use the Fraybill cooler, the Fraybill minnow cooler. It's not very expensive. It's about $100. But it's insulated to the gills. I mean, it's got foam wall insulation in it, and if you put cool water in there from a bait shop, and if you get minnows from inside a bait shop, they've got the AC on, so the water's at least 72, 73. But if they cool the water, which they do at my bait shop, and it's like 69 or 70, put it in those coolers. You keep air on them. Keep air on those minnows. Keep that cooler lid closed when you're not using it. The one thing I see people do the most is they take that minnow bucket and they set it up on the front deck beside them. And they open the lid and they leave it open. That is the surefire way to kill your minnows right off the rip, because the sun heats that water up so quick. And it just kills them. They can't handle it. They can't handle that direct sunlight and that heat. So keep that bucket lid closed. Keep that water cool. Invest in a good minnow bucket and keep air in it. Air is the best thing you can do for minnows. Keep plenty of oxygen in there, and your minnows will live just fine for a day of fishing. The ice thing. The ice bottle thing for minnows is very tricky again. I'll say it again because they will get too cold. If water gets too cold and then you take them out and put them in the hot lake surface water, and it just instantly kills them because it shocks them. So you've got to be careful with ice, okay? Dave, have you done or are you planning to do a video on jig weights, types, etc.? I have a little bit. I've talked on a lot of different videos and a lot of different lives about jig weights, types, and hooks and things of that nature. But we can definitely do that again. Let's try to look at that next Wednesday. Let's look at jigs next Wednesday. We'll look at jig types. We'll look at jig sizes. And we'll look at what applications I use those different jig sizes and those different heads and what those different heads do for you and that sort of thing. So let's maybe look at that next week, Dave. That's a good topic for us next week is jig heads and jig sizes. Jigs, and more jigs is what we'll call it. All right. And we'll look at everything that is jigs next week. Okay. You're very welcome. He says thanks. So you're very welcome. So guys, Dave just got us a topic for next week. I appreciate that very much. We will see you guys next week. I appreciate you guys for being on here. Thank you so much for being a part of the Wired fam. Guys, again, if you're watching, you haven't subscribed to the channel, we're giving away a fishing trip, a 2-day all weekend fishing trip to one lucky subscriber when we hit 10,000. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And guys, do me a favor this week. Go find your favorite Wired for Crappie video and share it. Share it on your Facebook. Share it on your Instagram. Share it for me, please. That way, more people get to experience Wired for Crappie as well, and they can become part of the Wired fam, and they can be on here talking with us on Wednesday nights too, okay? So please make it a point. Share a video this week. I appreciate it. Thank y'all so much. As always, God bless, and we'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Good night, guys. We'll see you later.